Dadhood. Modern Dadhood podcast.
There you are, Marc.
There I am. I was here the whole time, man.
As soon as we connected, you commented that we're wearing the same thing. And it happens more often than not that we show up on recordings or even in person looking like the same dude.
Yeah. Today I looked at your little box, and for a minute I was confused. I thought, is that my little box? Is that me?
Do you want to tell the listeners about what show they're listening to?
I can do my best.
Well, have at it.
This is Modern Dadhood, a podcast. Hold on, I'm going to get there. You're listening to the podcast Modern Dadhood, an ongoing conversation about the joys, challenges, and general insanity of being a dad in this moment. My name is Marc Checkett, and I'm a dad to twin boy 6.5-year-olds.
And my name's Adam Flaherty, and I am a dad to two daughters who are 10 and 7. For any new listeners to Modern Dadhood, because I do think we pick up some new listeners frequently, we want to say welcome. Welcome to the show. We hope you enjoy what you're about to hear, which in today's episode happens to be a conversation with the great Pete Holmes. That's coming up for you very soon. But here's something else you should know about Modern Dadhood is that Marc and I are not fatherhood or parenting experts, but we do love to talk about fatherhood. We love to have guests on who can help us to become better dads and help you, the listeners, become better parents. And we have some laughs along the way, right?
And frankly, this show is going to help you synthesize and optimize your parenting experience within the home stratosphere, right? I mean, that's what we're all about, right?
It seems a little mystical and maybe a little arrogant.
Yeah, you might be right about both of those things.
But sure. I mean, I like buzzwords as much as the next guy.
There you go.
You can find Modern Dadhood, all of our stable of episodes at moderndadhood.com or wherever podcasts can be found. Just search Modern Dadhood. Also find us on social media, tell a friend, leave us a review, all that good stuff. It helps us to expand the audience and turn new people onto the show.
And listen, this show is not just for parents. I was just talking to a coworker of mine, not a parent, and she checked out our recent episode with Dr. Vivek Murthy. And she even decided after that, the next time that she was with other friends that are not even parents, she told them about the show, which I thought was very kind. And she went and downloaded the latest report that the Surgeon General's office released. So look what can happen. Look what can happen from our little show. You know?
Sick, man.
Right? Totally sick.
Disgusting. Okay, let's take 30 seconds each, maybe even 20 seconds each, because I do want to know how things are with you. Like just like at the highest level summary you can possibly give. What's up?
I can do that. Start the clock. We're doing well. We had a wonderful weekend. It's October now, which means the Checkett family is preparing for All Hallows Eve.
Yes, you got good parties.
We did a lot of work on the front yard. There's a little bit of a cemetery going on. I've introduced some new things this year that was not at the party last year. Very excited about it. The kids got into it. We were out pounding stakes into the ground and making a makeshift wrought iron fence along our walkway. We built a cemetery. I pulled a bunch of dead trees out of the woods to create like a gangly tree in the front yard. So much fun. Super excited to keep it going. And I hope you're coming to the party this year.
The Checketts throw an awesome Halloween party, and I intend to be there.
And you?
I'll just say that there's chili in the crock pot right now. It's going to cook overnight, slow cook overnight. There's an energy in the air, and I'm feeling good. There's exciting stuff happening with the other podcast that we're developing that we'll be able to tell our listeners about very soon. My family's healthy. Kids are doing great in school. Life is good.
if you only know Pete Holmes from his comedy specials, right, you will know that he's very funny and intelligent. If you don't listen to his podcast or listen to him speak, then I think you might not know, and you would be delighted to find out in this episode of Modern Dadhood that he can get really deep, very introspective. He's incredibly thoughtful. Obviously a super intelligent, well-read dude who's always kind of, seems to me anyway, to be thinking about like the self, and being present and being in a moment. And man, I mean, it made for such a fantastic conversation that maybe went off in a few directions, at times, but just like fruitful, and gave me anyway, in our little chat, so much to kind of walk away and contemplate and think about. These are things I'm still thinking about. And this, we interviewed him, at this point, a couple of days ago, but a lot of what he talked about is just like stuck with me. You know what I mean? Did that happen to you?
Yeah. And also separately, you and I appeared on, or we recorded a conversation with the ladies who run the Moms on Call podcast. And I said this to them, that Pete, in like a 90-second monologue, answering one of our questions, I feel like he summed up so much about parenting that I've spent the last 5 years in talking to you about fatherhood, like trying to surmise. And he just packaged it all up so well. He's on another level. All right, dude.
Well, shit. Let's get into it.
Pete Holmes really requires no introduction, but I'll say that he's a dad to his daughter, Lila, who's coming up on 6 years old. He's a husband to Val. He's a fellow podcaster and actor, and probably the funniest and most hardworking comedian out there. He is a bucket lister for us on Modern Dadhood. Pete, it's an honor to have you on, so thank you for being with us.
I'm already glad I did it. That was so kind. I really appreciate that.
Do you want me to do the intro again?
I mean, let's do it. You know what I do sometimes on stage? I really hope it doesn't seem disingenuous or stupid, but sometimes I'll have someone from the audience get on stage and walk out and everyone claps the way they do for me. And maybe I don't know how that might come off corny or something, but I've done it. I've done it for Val. I did it for Val when we did my special taping for Faces and Sounds. So that was in Chicago, and we were just dating at the time, and I'll never forget it. And I was like, I'm going to introduce Valerie as if it's her special taping. This is what we were done. So I was happy and relieved. It went well. I was like, ladies and gentlemen, Valerie Cheney. And this is before Val really did the podcast or anything. So there was no reason for them to, other than like a love, a shared love. And she came out and they went nuts. Like 1,100 people just went nuts. And the look on her face, I was like, we really should all be so lucky to get an intro like that and to get applause like that. I really think there's something to be said. And there's nothing really stopping us from doing it. It's free. You know what I mean? We could just be clapping for each other.
We could. Exactly. Yeah.
And we should. I'm going to say we should be. We should be.
Everybody should be celebrated with a monstrous round of applause for no reason. Honestly, once in their life.
If someone listening, wait for your mom to go to the bathroom at a restaurant, and when she comes back, just give her a round of applause.
Or stand up.
Some mid-management supervisor, somebody who's sort of stepped on at work, not really deeply respected. Can't do it for the big cheese. Do it for someone in the middle. When they come back to the meeting, give them a round of applause and mean it. Yeah, try to find a way to mean it is the key.
That's going to be the hardest part. I'm trying to figure out how do I work this in like Monday morning in some of my first early meetings, but meaning it's going to be the hard part for me.
Well, I am actually going to take that back because something we did on Crashing, which we really did in real life, and then we ended up doing it on Crashing, was a game called I Got It. And it's you leave the room, you come back in the room, and you pretend like you just had an audition or a job interview or something, and you're pretending like it went badly, and then you go, I got it, and everyone freaks out. And Reggie Watts, I think, made that game up, and it was me and him, and Amy Schumer, all these weird name drops. But this is like 20 years ago. We were all just kind of open micers basically. And we played that game. And the weirdest phenomenon, and I think the same is true for clapping for your coworker, is you obviously don't mean it, but then your body doesn't know, and it gets fooled.
Reacts to it.
You have this real ecstasy.
The same as it's like forcing yourself to smile or something, like looking in the mirror and practicing smiling. Like it actually does change some body chemistry.
Exactly.
And whatnot.
That's exactly. Or fake laughing. We do that on my podcast, Fake Laugh to Real Laugh.
Yeah.
How long can you fake laugh before you start to laugh that you're fake laughing? And really all these are just hacks. For somebody, you know, I don't mean to talk. I talk a lot, and especially when I'm the guest on a podcast, I'm like, they want me to talk.
It's great.
It really feels nice for
You've
me.
got a microphone. Let's do this.
Well, this is exactly what I was doing before we started this podcast. I was just talking to myself. I know I come off as a cheery person, but the truth of the matter is I need help just like everybody. And little games like this can snap me out of when you're just in the clutches of a bad mood. So
yeah. And then on the crashing episode, it was Sarah Silverman that was in that scene. Yeah, I can't remember that.
There's always got to be a period of like quiet before you say I got it.
Sad
right?
face. Yeah.
You're building up a little bit of mystery.
One of the shames is that non-acting, non-performing people don't get opportunities to act because it's really fun. I know you do. Mitch Hedberg used to have a joke about like how he does acting. Like every time he gets a pool ball in by accident, he acts like it was on purpose, stuff like that. But I think like playing like I'm pretending I didn't get this fake job or part and then revealing that I got it can be really, really fun. And the times I've invited my friends, my non-actor friends, to act with me, when you really see that like so much of acting is just giving yourself permission to try it. Because all of us are, to a greater or lesser extent, playing the part of Adam and Marc and Pete. You know, we know what it's like to kind of like, and it plays a lot into parenting, actually. It's like you're sort of playing the part. That's not to say it's disingenuous, but there's certain attributes of yourself that you encourage and some that you discourage to try and model for your child, not just what a dad is, but what love is and what a partner is, like what a husband is. Like when she sees me being a husband to Val, Bill Burr, again, has a great bit where he really says it to his daughter. He's like, find somebody like me. and that is what dads are saying the whole day. And it's not just about like controlling who they married. That's not the spirit in which I'm saying this. You're trying to say like, this is what love looks like. This is what love looks like. This is what love looks like. See how I'm listening to you? See how I'm listening and honoring and respecting your mother? Please find that. I don't care if you marry them, if you don't marry them, if you live with them, if they're your friend, if you're asexual, it doesn't matter. Whatever your thing is, whatever your thing is, love and respect and patience and understanding and witnessing, you know, seeing, being seen. It doesn't matter if you're a Renaissance fair reenactor or into death metal or a polyamorous swinger. It doesn't matter. All those things carry into whatever activities my kid or any kid could do.
It's funny, those three things you just mentioned describe Adam perfectly.
A death metal polyamorous swinger.
I haven't found many other polyamorous people who are looking to swing
bizarre.
like
No, the death metal community is littered with poly folk. They love to rip it up.
Oh, man.
That can't be controversial. I'm saying it's cool.
Yeah, totally. Of course.
I also am basing that on absolutely nothing.
Man, I feel like we could take this in so many directions because of all of that. But we kind of always quickly ask at the beginning about our guests' current kid life, like how things are going. Adam has a 10 and 7-year-old.
both girls.
Both girls. I have two boys that are 6.5. Lila's 5.5.
She just turned 6.
That like?
I
She just
really,
turned 6.
I
Happy birthday.
Talk about being seen. I really appreciated that you knew that. And she just had her 6th birthday, and her party is tomorrow. So
awesome.
That's wonderful.
So we're in a really, really sweet spot. I'm obsessed with my daughter. I have a joke right now where like when I'm eating with her, I'm like starstruck by her. It's like this weird, it's just a different thing. I'm not putting my folks down, but in the 80s, parents weren't like, does Peter think I'm cool? You know what I mean? Like they didn't think that. I'm really trying to position myself so Lila like enjoys me and wants to be my friend. I know that's not a shock, but also I don't think that was at the top of the list, parenting in the 80s. So that's what it is now. And sometimes I have to remind myself to parent her, like not just try to win her over, but like parent her, model good behaviors and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, what I started to say was I could go on and on about the love affair. Obviously, I mean a non-romantic love, but like a love, we're in this bubble, the three of us. And it's unseated comedy and show business as my main interest to an embarrassing extent. And that is just unthinkable. It really is like being a pirate. Like I was a pirate for 20 years and we were just like, there be nothing but rum and booty, you know? And then you have a child and you're just like, can we knock it down to 6 C's? I don't want to be doing all 7, you know? Like it really is that. And the comedians that, boy, it's hard to not sound judgmental, but the ones that don't necessarily go the kid route, maybe don't understand. I can't say that they don't understand, but it's confusing to some that suddenly you're just like really about this thing that is sometimes equal parts challenging and joyful. And that's what I was really trying to say was I could talk at length about how wonderful it is. I woke up this morning, it was still dark. My daughter had climbed in the bed. She's already smiling and laughing. And she's like, I missed you, Dad. I had a show last night. And she's like, I missed you, Daddy. And I'm just like, ugh, you're there at a million. And then there's, in the same day, you'll just catch yourself being like, I can barely take care of myself. And now there's another person. There's another, it's almost not just a person, it's like another brain. You know how your brain is making all these demands of you. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I can't find the motivation, I'm anxious. Then you have another one and it needs you and it's like, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I can't find the motivation, I need structure, I need meaning. And you're just like, there's just these moments where you're like, wow, this is it's like near impossible. And you really feel like you're gonna, you can't do it. And then 10 minutes later, it's a cliche, 10 minutes later, you're in heaven. Right. You're in heaven. And then, and as she gets older, it's certainly fewer tantrums and meltdowns and stuff, but there's still like, sometimes it's just like, I can't. You know what I mean?
And nothing that you say will make it better. You can do everything in your power to try to fix the situation and it'll only make it worse.
Yeah.
But what other, like, aside from having a kid, what other situation in your life can you go from such wild extremes to like flipping to the other one? Like my 10-year-old can have me like, just going out of my mind. Like I can't even believe this situation's happening right now. I don't know how to process it. And then 5 minutes later, all I want to do is wrap my arms around her and like snuggle up with her because she's the best thing, you know?
It's simultaneous. I will say my life started when Lila was born, and really mean it. And then I'll also you'll have this moment, a flare up of like, Val and I sometimes will be like, do you remember on the weekends? We used to just...
Remember sleeping in?
Would sleep in. We'd order food from one place and dessert from another place on 2 apps and just wait like a king. That's a Chelsea Peretti joke. Like a king, like whatever you want to eat. And then you would watch movies and would whatever and take a nap and then go out and
have no preconceived even idea that you would even be doing any of those things leading into them. Right?
Exactly.
Like it's not, none of this stuff is even planned out.
It was on a whim. It was on a whim. And now there's just, the weekends, again, this is probably another cliche, but like the concept of a weekend is very different for people who have kids and don't have kids. Weekend used to be, this is your time off. Now weekend is like, it's not just that you should schedule stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you don't, you're toast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, you lose your mind. Yeah.
And it took me 6 years to really figure that out, because it would be like, summer vacation's over. The last 2 weeks, we don't have any camps or anything planned. And I'm always like, it'll be fine, because I'm obsessed with my daughter. And then like day one, you are doing everything you can. And then you look at the clock and it's 2. And one of the worst feelings as a parent is you go, it's 2. We start bedtime at 7:30. You can't do that math. You can't go, we're 5.5 hours away from books. It's like, I'm in a very good mood today, and Lila's at school, and that's good for everybody. She's at school. It's good for her, and it's good for us. We get to recharge. And when I pick her up, we're going to be like all in. But having just come out of the summer, you realize like having kids will take you to beyond zero, like in terms of energy, and it's just really, really hard. It's just I am proud that what used to be in the 80s and 90s, like maybe yelling or fighting or whatever. Now I feel like modern dads, like if I say like, Lila, please, like that's, and just exactly how I just said it, that's like, she knows that's my top.
Right. Right.
There might be like more sounds of it. I might be flattering myself, but it's in that ballpark. It's certainly not like, give me a minute. It's nothing like that. It's just like, Lila, you know what we do? We go, I'm really trying to help her with this. Like Val, my wife, is having a hard time. I go, Lila, look at mama's body language. Listen to her voice. Do you see? Like, that's a different thing than she's getting mad. Like, and look out. It's like, I want you to practice with us. Look at people. And so when we do get frustrated, and we do, Val is such a genius about this. She's like, it's good. We want to live in like, the mushroom kingdom of Mario Brothers and everything be perfect. But Bowser's got to show up. You got to show her that people have a limit, and that even us who love her irrationally, if you keep hitting me in the balls or something, I'm going to be like, stop, Yeah. And if I don't show that to her, it's actually a disservice to her. You have to be like, practice with me. It's like, scary TV shows. My daughter loves things that are a little scary, or rides at Disneyland. Disneyland is a safe place to practice uncomfortable emotions. That's the whole thing. It's like, would you like to be scared in a controlled way? In the same way, parents are like, would you like to see what it looks like when a grown-up gets frustrated, but you will be 100% safe? The whole time. It's exactly like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's just Dads of the Caribbean. And that slight drop is when I go, Lila, enough. Like, just please. Dad is getting frustrated. That's just, she knows she's safe. And I'll even tell her. I'll go, and this is a very modern parenting thing too. You go, do you know why Dad, I got frustrated? It's because he was on the phone with the bank talking about the mortgage. And you kept blowing spit bubbles in his eye. You're going to see that in the world, and I'm your dry run. And if I just never, ever got frustrated, she'd go out into the world and it would just devour her,
Right. And those explanations, the descriptions, when you're saying like, or like directions, you're giving directions along the way too, look at, here's an opportunity for you to observe body language, that's it too. That's a skill you got to build up. Let's practice it right now. I mean, and just saying it out loud, I think is so great. And it's such a smart thing, and probably helps you in the moment. I know that it would me, right? Like from getting too elevated or getting too frustrated. It's almost like you're saying the stuff that you would never say to yourself.
That's right.
Out loud to sort of pull you back or whatever.
Well, you're trying to give her a good inner monologue. And if my daughter, and I'm sure she will, because my daughter loves hugging everyone in her class. She hugs her friends. She picks them up. She's just like me in that way. Like when I was younger, I picking my friends up and stuff. And sometimes they're like, they lock up and their face is like this. And I'm like, Lila, just look at their body language. That's what we're working on right now. Just does it look like they want to hug?
Yeah.
It's a good lesson.
It is. But you're absolutely right. When I'm reminding her to step back from the situation and look at it objectively or empirically, I'm also reminding myself to step back from my own reactive mind and go like, yeah, look at this like something that already happened and we're analyzing it.
I had this weird situation last night where my week has been just kind of like a fucking disaster. It's just like I'm dealing with this town issue that has me like very stressed out and high anxiety. And my girls are aware of it. But last night it was I was just like kind of at my wit's end with it. And I let them know that I'm not frustrated with you. This is not about you. I'm just very stressed out about something and trying to work through it. And I said, can you guys so they're 10 and 7. They're a little older. They're capable of kind of getting themselves ready for bed and not needing a ton of hand holding with that. But I was like, can you guys get yourselves ready for bed? Get yourselves tucked in, read a book. I'll come up and I'll see you. But can I just ask that you, because they've been bickering a lot. And so can you just try to keep things peaceful, because I just can't process it right now. And so, I was trying to show them a little bit of vulnerability there. And then they still went off to brush their teeth, and I hear them like picking on each other. So I went up after and I was like, girls, I need to tell you, I'm really disappointed that you couldn't put, your irritations with each other aside to help me when I'm in a kind of a time of need. And I think that way more so than raising my voice with them actually resonated. Like they got a little weepy and stuff, which I felt terrible about. Like I don't want to make them cry, but I needed them to know, I'm a human being too. I also have big emotions, and I'm trying to keep them in check, but we're a unit here, and I need you
I love all of that.
Respect that, like, I'm having a really hard time with something. Can you please just go a little above and beyond to try to help me out here? Because 99.9% of the time, it's the other way around. I'm supporting you in your, emotional despair.
Well, I was smiling because two of the things I probably, in times of distress, I say to Lila the most are, I'm a person.
Yeah.
like she'll like jump on me in an unexpected way. And I just go, Lila, I'm a person. Yeah. I love that you think I'm invincible, but like I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that. Yeah. And the other one I go is, and I don't even know if she knows what this means, but I just go, please be cool, baby. And I go, do you know what give me a break means? Just please. Like, I know you're having whatever, this, it might be a hard feeling. It might just be tons of energy. And I'm like, what makes me always emotional about these parts, and really, I mean this, my parents did the best they could. They were living up to a standard of a different time. So this isn't judgment on them. I'm just saying, like, even hearing you say, and that the three of us are having this conversation and it's like normal. It's not like a fringe movement. Like modern parenting has evolved, and it's evolved in this really beautiful way, which is that parents can say, sweetheart, do you know why I got frustrated? And like my parents, it seemed, I can't know, but it seemed like they were operating under the assumption, like, just don't tell them anything.
Right.
Like, so my dad was having a lot of hard work things, and I didn't know about like transference. Like he's stressed out about work, and that's why he's rude to the waiter.
Right.
And if someone had just like, it really, not in this moment, but it can make me emotional that if my father was rude to a waiter, he wasn't really rude to waiters. I'm just saying if that happened and he said, Peter, do you know why I was rude to that waiter? And the key one, and this is gangbusters in my relationship. And if it hasn't already, I think it will be one in parenting, is I'm embarrassed. Like, I'm embarrassed that that's how I responded, but I'm feeling really frustrated, and that's why it came out that way.
Yeah.
Just that vulnerability, the upgrade of that vulnerability not being weakness or loss of authority, and actually a much more benevolent, not to say dads are kings, I'm just saying the authority to say, I'm embarrassed. I blew that. Like, I really blew that. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I just got bad news or whatever. I wish I hadn't called the waiter that name.
It's funny. Because I can remember back. I mean, I'll caveat too by saying like my parents were great and did the best that they could, you know, and I feel really fortunate that I had both parents my whole, you know, for a large part of my life. Right. And I feel fortunate to be raised the way that I was, but like, no, they didn't do any of that kind of explanation. Like, this feeling is coming about in me because XYZ, and that's why whatever, ABC, right? Like, I didn't get any of those, but I remember many times, certainly like when my mom or when my dad were really frustrated with something, right? And I come into the picture and ask for, you know, can I have a piece of cheese, whatever. And it's, you know, met with this very like cold, sharp, almost a sort of stop bothering me kind of feeling, right? And it's like, if there was something going on and I got that explanation, I feel like in so many instances in those situations, you as like a young person internalize that stuff. And, you know, you walk away from that going, fucking, hey, I can't talk about cheese in front of mom because that's a trigger for her, you know, and like, I'm going to get yelled at the next time and I'm not going to do that. And you sort of just internalize these, like these things that are like all wrong, you know, that these are not,
you get the wrong
because you're never
lesson.
Getting the full, you're never getting the full picture. So you're getting the wrong lesson.
Cheese,
you know,
stay away from cheese. That's such a good example. We're training my dog and it's funny. Like I said to the dog trainer, I was like, what if he chews up my flip-flops and I didn't see him? Is there any way to communicate, like, you chewed up my like, can I hold up the flip-flop and be like, no? And she was like, absolutely not. Like, he'll have no idea what you're talking about. And even with dogs, I'm like, wow, everything's evolving. Like, you either catch them and you say no, or you just have to go, I need new flip-flops.
Gotta get some new flops.
Yeah, you know, what it did for me was it made... one of the reasons why parenting can be challenging is that Val and I are both highly sensitive people, and we're both really empathetic people in certain ways. Certainly there's blind spots to that. But like, a lot of that comes from growing up with parents that I just didn't know the patterns. I didn't know if it was cheese. I didn't know if it was this. Just like a 100-sided die in Dungeons and Dragons. And to this day, when I call home, I know by how they say hello when they answer the phone, which version of them I have. And that's just like, that sounds like, oh, what a cool skill. Actually, what a burden that I have such complicated files on these people that based on the hello, I'll adapt my strategy. And this is why, without getting too into it, this is why comedy was so natural for me. It's like interpreting audiences. The sound, my opener and I are always talking about the sound before the show, the chatter, how rowdy it sounds, how drunk it sounds, how attentive, how happy. It's exactly the same kind of hypervigilance that you develop as a child. As a child that didn't really feel, again, they did the best they could, but didn't really feel super seen, super understood. And really, honestly, I felt like, a lot of the time I was like the office manager or something, you know what I mean? Like less than like what our kids, I imagine, all feel like. My daughter knows she's our kid. You know what I mean? There's no like, and I'm very proud of that. There's no blurring of her role to be my confidant, or I know she's only 6, but like, or to like be an intermediary between me and her mom. And that also just feels like progress.
What we kind of talk about this a lot on this show, Pete, but like the three of us, based on the stories you guys have just shared, like we all grew up in households where we were cared for and safe and loved. But we also, it sounds like, all grew up in households where our parents didn't do things that we do for our kids, like getting down on their level and talking to them about processing their feelings and constantly wrapping our arms around them and squeezing them and telling them that they're confident and creative and funny. And what is it about parents of our generation that want to assume that role, to naturally see themselves as that kind of dad when it wasn't modeled to us necessarily?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they were doing better than their parents did. And everybody takes the ball and runs it forward. And it's an interesting question. My guess would be that modern life, we're all from the East Coast. It's like navel gazing. That was like such a put down. It's like, like philosophy, psychotherapy, or psychology, certainly anthropology. These are all like navel gazing, meaning you need to have your base needs met. You can't really spend too much time wondering about your child's needs if you're worried about food or shelter or whatever it might be. And I just think like modern life having gotten more comfortable, just literally like pizza being delivered, like in the 80s, that was a newer thing. They'll drive it to your house, and that's progressed, and the internet. And I think about my dad, he kept a notebook, he still does, in his front breast pocket where he writes down the things he has to do. And he's, I wouldn't say he's always stressed out, but he carries a good amount of stress. He often can't read his writing, and it's all these things, and there's no dates or priorities. It's all this stuff. And every time I'm sitting at a dinner table, let's say, and I realize in a panic that I didn't reply to a very important email, and I just do it. I just take out my phone, I search for it, find it, write, yes, let's do this, send, and I'm back at the dinner. I'm just like, no kidding. I have more time to get down on one knee and mirror my daughter's reality to her. When I run out of Brazil nuts, I can go on Amazon and overnight them. And these aren't fancy things. Like, I mean, it sort of is, but it also isn't. You can call an Uber. You can call a TaskRabbit to fix that thing. So of course we've freed up this time. And I also just think like, it's just the way everything works, even down to the cells in our body. Some cell develops a certain skill and then it sheds it, and the next one has what that one had and a little bit more. It's just how it goes. And we don't need to waste time being like, oh, our parents had so much less. We should really be wondering, what will our kids be saying about us?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how will we, what's our blind spot? Obviously we don't know, but there will be one. There will be something. But what I always say is, it won't be that my daughter didn't feel held in my awareness. Whatever our fuck up is, it will not be that I superimposed some other image. I try really deliberately to see her and hold her as she is, and witness it and honor it. And I'm like, kind of in a Mr. Rogers-y way, if I'm doing that, if in 20 years they're like, yeah, but you, whatever. I don't want to make a guess because it would sound insensitive. But if you didn't do this, you gave me shoes when everyone knows that shoes bind your feet, and I didn't want to be wearing shoes. How dare you? I'd be like, yeah, but you ever just look at your kids? And when she catches me just looking at her and smiling, when she knows that she's delighted in, I'm like, I'll take the shoe shit in 2032. You knew your dad loved you. You know what I mean? Like, you knew more than just loved you, like was really taken with you and made the effort to witness you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, yeah, knowing that someone loves you, knowing what they sort of think about you and like what they sort of hold in their heart, and try to keep and also try to nurture, like all of these things. I start to think about like, so my dad passed away a little over 8 years ago. And I find myself sort of, the further I get away from being able to have had a conversation with him, the more about like that kind of stuff I kind of wonder. No, I don't wonder that whether he loved me. Like, I know that he did. And I feel like I know what kind of person he really was. I think I knew my dad. but there are these like little things that I sort of wonder about, about what I was like when I was younger, or when he noticed that maybe I was, destined like for a particular path in life, just that kind of stuff, like what things he paid attention to, I'd love to sort of be able to do that, because I don't know that it was very apparent. I think some of it's the kind of stuff that we were talking about. They're products of their time, but also my dad was he didn't talk a lot. Right. I'm rambling now, but
no, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And I get it. It's interesting. I so worry that my parents are just sort of like and I worry that I could be this way too. There's only like 15 anecdotes, and those are the ones you're going to get. And that's what is so sickening. And I don't mean sickening, like they disgust me. I mean, it literally makes my stomach turn when you're 45 years old and you're visiting your folks and they tell the same 5 stories. And you're like, I know I wasn't 5 stories. No one's 5 stories.
But man, then my girls at bedtime will be like, Daddy, tell me a story from when you were in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
And I'll have like one story from when I was that age too.
Yeah. No, I got nothing. But I mean, like, I don't think it's really on us to remember. It would have been nice. I don't know. I'm not saying our parents need to remember for us, but I'd like to try to remember as much as I can. I try to write things down. Val and I both try to write things down. We're not perfect about that. But yeah.
I did want to ask, I feel like whenever we talk with comedians, people in the comedy world who talk about their family and their kids, publicly on stage, people like Bert Kreischer, say, who like talks about his daughters and may or may not be like embellishing like this in the stories that he's telling, but like they have to deal with the fact that my dad is sharing these stories about me or some version of me. And like, is it their burden to kind of have to deal with that? So I guess, in your case, in thinking about Lila, the jokes that you tell that include her are like pretty safe. Not anything I've ever heard that would like be offensive to her later in life. But do you think about that? Like just from a privacy standpoint?
Maybe. I do think it's important how you ease them into that. From what I've been told, your kids don't care about that stuff as much as we think they're going to. I've had that on fairly good authority from some of the older guys I know. That doesn't mean I don't worry about it, but the truth of the matter is I'm so aware of not only my ability as a dad, but all dads' ability and all parents' abilities as parents to whitewash and homogenize and steam clean their past and their feelings and the 3-dimensionality of their inner worlds, their emotional life, their physical life. And as someone who grew up, like you, Marc, yearning to know my parents and really feeling like I was, to a greater or lesser extent, getting them in the role of my mother or my father, even when I was 40 and it was like, can we drop it? It's still not happening. So I'm aware that as I get older and as Lila gets older, I might want to steam clean my life. And one of the reasons, even when I started doing my podcast, I was like, I can't wait for my kids to hear all of this because it's true. And I was like, and I wouldn't put it past me. Like I said, I want my daughter to like me and think I'm cool. I wouldn't put it past me to try to withhold those things. And what a resource. If I had to predict, I don't think Lila will be that interested in listening to every episode of my podcast or any of my podcasts. Right. I can't know that, but if I had to guess, she'll get enough of me in real life that I don't see her doing that. But if she did and she heard about whatever, it might lead to some tricky conversations for me when like I'm thinking about when I take mushrooms at Bonnaroo or whatever. But I'm like, yeah. And here's how you take mushrooms at Bonnaroo. Like I did it with a trusted friend, and I had a group with me, and we knew where we were, and we kept eyes on each other, and we were safe, and we took a small amount, whatever it is. That time I actually did take a small amount, but whatever. Here's how you do a big amount. There's such a gift to be able to share your real life with your kids in a way that you're not even talking to them. Right. I'm 28 and I'm talking to Zach Galifianakis. That's what your dad was like. What a thrill if you're curious. And maybe I'll be dead and then she'll be curious. Who knows? But it'll be there. And I actually foresee a future, not to get too weird and AI about it, where AI would be able to amalgamize the entirety of my podcast and she could just have a conversation with me at any age and just say, what would my dad have said about this when he was 28? And it would just be like, all right, loading 28-year-old Pete. That's almost certainly something that we'll be able to do.
I mean, it's not far-fetched. That probably is possible now.
No, I know it. It probably is. It might not be like released, but somebody has that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they're like, should we release this? Yeah, we're about, things are going to get pretty strange, but we've done that sort of strange before. Before television, if you saw it, you could believe it. And believe it or not, that was a cultural shift where they could make something on TV look like Superman was flying. And that took the human mind a while to get over. Like you can see something and it is not. Like we forget that was also a leap, similar to here's a video of Joe Biden moonwalking on water, and we'll adapt. We've adapted before. The second question about privacy is with my wife, it's never been a problem, and there's a similarity there, and that's just because, like I said, I really am obsessed with them, and I love them so much that I don't worry about. I would be very surprised if any of the jokes that I have about Lila, even though Lila is a private person, she doesn't like her picture being taken without her consent, obviously. She doesn't like us talking about her. She tells us that. She goes, up. Are you talking about me? Like she doesn't want us talking about her, even if it's just us. And yeah, I tell stories, but in the stories that I tell about her, she is the winner. Like it's stories where she wins and she's funny and she scores. And if when she's older, she says, stop. Yeah, that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what I would do for my daughter. And not to be proud, but I didn't have kids for the material. If she doesn't like it, that's fine. I'll write jokes about dinosaurs. I don't care. But I hope she likes it because it's so fun to be able to talk about your kids.
Dads and moms, I probably don't need to say this because you probably are already subscribed, but for the love of God, subscribe to You Made It Weird. Please catch Pete on tour when he's in your city. All the tour dates are at peteholmes.com. Get to the theater in November to see the best Christmas pageant ever. And all of Pete's stuff is going to be in the episode notes. Pete, again, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and talking dad stuff with us.
Thank you, Pete.
I love it. It was the highlight of my day, so thanks for having me.
Hey, Marc.
What?
Do you have...
No, you go.
Do you have a...
I'll be quiet.
Look, I want to squeeze in a quick recurring segment, even though it's a long episode.
I can oblige. In fact, I have a did I just say that out loud? And I have an instant regret. So the question to you, do you want something that's maybe a little funny? Or do you want an instant regret?
I feel like we did a lot of laughing with Pete Holmes. Let's go with the instant regret. Let's balance it out a little bit.
Okay. All right. Let's let the listeners know exactly what kind of father I am. Okay, here we go. Don't we have a little intro song?
Yeah, I'll roll the theme song right now.
Roll the theme.
I just said something stupid to one of my kids.
Instant regret.
I wish I could take it back, but I can't.
Instant regret.
Stupid.
Instant regret.
One of my sons was, we were kind of getting into a little back and forth. Okay. Not proud. Sometimes I, quote unquote, take the bait. Okay.
I'm guilty of that sometimes.
So he was yelling at me, and he ended up yelling. This was minutes into. He was exhausted from it. I was exhausted from it. I should have walked away a long time ago. And he yells at me. He says, "You're treating me like a 42-year-old," right? Which I think is very funny. Like
It's really good.
because he knows that I'm 42. He's saying to me like, "Hey, dude, I'm your kid. And for some reason you're engaged in a back and forth with me as if I am an adult."
He's wise
Which is-
beyond his years.
Dude, so like it should have never got to that point in the conversation. So he very astutely yells at me, "You're treating me like a 42-year-old." And without even
Oh, shit. Here it
a
comes.
beat,
What did you say?
without even a beat, I said, "No, I'm treating you like a baby because that's how you're acting."
Oh,
And
Marc.
the listeners couldn't see, but I was pointing very, with like a lot of vigor, and I was doing it then too. And the combination of the pointing and hearing those words come out of my mouth, I was just like, literally, like as I'm saying it, my brain is going, "Dude, you're an idiot. What are you doing?" And I just couldn't stop it from happening.
Okay, so, all right, so you screwed up,
Yeah, I did.
obviously. How did he react?
I mean, I'm pretty like, so he's been really good lately about getting, when he gets too worked up, and he can get worked up, he will stomp away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the stomping that much, but he will remove himself from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he might stomp upstairs, and he has a very funny way of like muttering as he's doing it. It's very comical.
Like a 42-year-old?
A little bit like a 42-year-old. Yeah. And so he just very like, arms straight down by his side, fists clenched, stomped away from me, which is probably the smartest thing either of us could have done at that moment. And so
That's what you should have done.
Yeah.
30 seconds earlier.
At that point, I took his lead and was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna walk away." Good call. We made up.
Instant regret.
There it is. I'm a human being.
You know what? And he'll be okay.
Somebody very wise once said earlier in this episode, "I'm a human."
All right, man.
Okay.
Here we are.
All right. This is it.
All right. Close it out. Let's close it out fast.
The end.
Dads, moms.
You've reached. Take it away.
Yeah, this is the end of the episode of Modern Dadhood. You can, again, find all of our episodes at moderndadhood.com on Apple or Amazon or Spotify or Hark Audio, wherever you happen to be listening. Search Modern Dadhood, subscribe, leave us a review, tell a friend, find us on social media, engage with us, send us an email, tell us what you want to hear, tell us who you want to have on the show, buy a Modern Dadhood t-shirt or dad hoodie, and receive a free sticker with your order, all at moderndadhood.com. Thank you to Casper Baby Pants. Thank you to Spencer Albee for the music in Modern Dadhood. A heartfelt thank you to our new friend Pete Holmes for making the time, carving the time out of his day to be part of Modern Dadhood. He didn't have to do it, but he did. It speaks to his character. Great dude. Hope to stay in touch with him. And as always, Marc, Andrew Checkett, you take the last bullet.
Thank you for listening.
Podcast. Living modern.